Hey, it's Joey Balladonna here from Anthrax, and this is SAGAS.
Well,
look, this is a big one.
I didn't break out and join the podcast today.
It is now time for Devil's Advocate. Same time, same place, awesome.
What's going on, everybody? This is Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Slipwith.
And this is Ren, the Berserker Marabou. And this is
SAGAS.
SAGAS. Welcome.
Before we continue, we have a regular friend.
Yes.
So this is Morgrot. I will put the link obviously at the top. Morgrot is an independently created physical metal issue by John Sorrell. Amazing guy. He actually dresses up like a cowboy. I did interview him once. He's very cowboyish. That's very cool. So this started when he asked me to do reviews for him. So I do reviews for his Morgrot. And it has reviews, it has artwork. You can't see it, but it has artwork, it has reviews, it has interviews John did himself. So yeah, it's a pretty cool issue. The SAGAS logo is now on every single one of them going forward, and I'll be doing obviously all the reviews, not all of them, but a lot of his reviews going forward. That's my part of it. And yeah, very cool. Please check it out. He's very creative, and you also see a lot of freebies such as serial killer cards for his little game. I got Charles Manson last time, which is pretty cool. I messaged him. I was like, look, remember, don't give me doubles. You gave me Charles Manson last time. Don't give me it again. Just to make sure. He's been advertising a goth edition coming soon, which I might help write for that as well. It's interesting going back and forth with him. I talk to him almost every day. He's a massive wrestling fan, except we both like opposite promotions, so I always talk shit to him. It's pretty funny. Anyway, fun guy. Please go check him out. The link should be above to type in on Facebook, and go order yours or pre-order yours today. Definitely worth it. So that's more got out the way. If you want to introduce the album today, because it was your choice.
Yeah, bro. This is somebody I've mentioned several times on the podcast, but I'm so excited to chat about him today. It's not just a he, it's a they. It's three absolute legends. Of course, we're going to be chatting about Richie Kotzen and his Winery Dogs. Whoa, Richie Kotzen. Yes, anybody that knows me and my music taste know that I'm obsessed with Richie. He's absolutely incredible. But the Winery Dogs are some of the best work that he's done with the Winery Dogs. So they recently released a new album, 2023, just a few weeks ago, as far as I know. And I've been listening to it ever since, and it's killer. It's Winery Dogs 3, Endo Tree. So, what do you think? You'd never listened to them before, had you, bro?
No. So first things first, when you said that they were they, I almost stormed out of the room. I'm like, they're Trent. No. No. So, no, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I never heard of. I mean, obviously, once I researched into them, the guy that made Dream Theater, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I listened to them definitely. And then obviously, I heard you talk about Richie and the other guy, the special other guy, Billy. Shout out to Billy Sheehan, the bassist, the legendary bassist, and from Mr Bg. So, yeah, it is the definition of a supergroup. So I was excited to check it out. And yeah, when I got into it, I didn't know what to expect based on the album cover. But it was, as you said, you kind of alluded to it last week at the end. But it definitely wasn't metal. But that's the good thing about this podcast. We can cover all ranges, from metal to rock to everything else. And yeah, this was just a fun time. You know, the first thing that came to my head, this probably isn't accurate at all. But for some reason, the thing in my soul when I was listening to this album the first time around was, this sounds like an ungothic version of him. I don't know. That's probably not right, but that's what came to my head, because I was thinking of like every time I heard Richie sing, I thought about like an ungothic version of Valvella, like how he would sing if he wasn't gothic, like if the band didn't stem in the gothic roots, what they would sound like. And I don't know why it just came to my head, like an ungothic him, which I mean, him being probably one of my top favorite bands of all time, that's quite the compliment to me. So it was a fun time, amazing instrumentation, amazing vocals, and I had a good time with it.
Sick. Well, do you know what? That's interesting because him to me are rock and roll, but they have just that goth twist to them. And obviously, Winery Dogs are old school rock and roll. That's actually quite an interesting comparison. Yeah, I can get on that. But so like you said, you've got Mike Portnoy, who is an ex-drummer of one of my favorite bands as well, Dream Theater. And to see him, like, when he played with those boys, he was, really over the top with his expression behind the kit. But he reels it in for the Winery Dogs. Obviously, he does a lot of really cool, subtle trickery behind the kit. But he likes to keep it pretty much like, old school rooted. So himself and Billy made this band. Well, they sat around discussing whether we'll, let's get a band and let's get a front man. And Billy obviously had worked with Richie when Richie was in Mr Bg for a few years. So there was already that connection. So I think one of their friends said to them, why don't you ask Richie Kotzen, man? Just to be able to have a connection like that with somebody like Richie Kotzen's like level of musicianship is absolutely astounding. Like the 3Ds boys, you say they're a super group, but they're so much more because they're actually writing incredible albums. They're touring like any band would work hard. They're out touring. But yeah, the recent single, the first single off the album, I think was Xanadu, which was Xanadu was like this like a Nirvana type place. It's like this beautiful place to go, and obviously there's that famous song by Olivia Newton-John, right? Xanadu. Richie's like, there's no connection there except for the fact that you're singing about this like heavenly place. But they filmed a music video for it in Malibu, which is pretty close to where Richie's living, and it's on this lovely cliff. And it just sums up the whole video. It's just the boys rocking out on the cliff, and there's a few F-bombs in there and the curses and stuff, which is, Richie likes to throw them in every now and then. It's a really interesting twist on the songs. But yeah, man, the first two singles I loved. What was the second one? Mad World. But the rest of the album just was even better for me. I was absolutely delighted. Like the first two albums, self-titled and then two, were just some of the best rock and roll albums ever written. Because you've got incredible talent. The boys have worked with so many artists over the years. So anyway, I'm gonna end up waffling and going into total rambles talking about Richie Kotzen and the Winery Dogs. But yeah, man, I'm so excited. Too excited. Richie.
This is definitely a killer album. I still haven't heard the other two albums on this, but just the way, the singing style was so melodic, but at the same time, it was equal parts melodic, equal parts like very, not rustic, but very, has like a manly singing voice. How some people you got the more, not feminine, but the more soft sort of singing voices, like a Kellen Quinn from Sleep with Sirens. I don't know if you remember that, but he has a very softer approach to it. But then people like Zakk Wylde have like a heavier approach to it. But I think that this is more on the heavier tone, which is good because it fit the album well. The instrumentation and all. It's just a groovy, and just like how catchy, some of the choruses were, like on Breakthrough, Xanadu, Mad World. It's just I love that for the most part on this album, the emphasis was on catchiness, rock and roll vibe, amazing choruses. Because, so many people can make a great track, but then forget to add like a good chorus or fuck up the chorus somehow. But I feel like there's so many of those great moments here that, they end up, there's some of those songs that get stuck in your head hours after listening to them. You'd just be sitting there doing dishes and just mumbling the chorus. to yourself. That's when you know you got a good song. Although sometimes on the opposite end, an annoying song can get stuck in your head too.
Yeah.
but in this case, it's the first one because there's just so many powerhouse tracks, and obviously by a powerhouse band, powerhouse trio. And it's interesting because you got the guy from the drummer, right? Is the Dream Theater guy, right? Yeah, like it's interesting because he must have taken quite the back seat stylistically because there's no Dream Theater elements in it. It's like, the long prog metal, like overly drawn out elements, cinematic, theatrical elements. I mean, this album has excellent production, but it doesn't feel theatrical in a way that obviously a Dream Theater album would feel like, which I just wonder during any of the recordings of these three albums, especially this one, did he just like have that itch, the itch to make it like 12 minutes long, make it fucking theatrical? Like, I wonder if he had those urges. But obviously, I guess when you're doing a side band, I don't know. I guess most people who do side bands, they do it because they want to show a different side of themselves that they can't exactly show on their main projects, like a Slipknot, Stone Sour, or it's a different sound together. So I wonder if it was like that. But yeah, I just sit there and I think there's like, I just wonder the whole time listening to it, did he ever have moments where he's like, oh, we should add a choir to this, or we should add fucking bells and twiddling, like it's the main thing I thought about. But no, obviously great album overall.
Do you know what's really cool? It's like this was like anybody that knows Richie Kotzen or doesn't know Richie Kotzen, he is one of the most prolific songwriters there is. I often compared him to Prince, the way Prince had like a vault of songs, hidden away, and that was always something I inspired to do, is to have like tons of songs recorded and eventually release them and stuff. But Richie Kotzen does that in spades. It was his 50th birthday, I think, 4 years ago. It was just around lockdown, so it could be 3 years ago now. And he released an album called 50 for 50. I mentioned it before on the podcast, but it had 50 tracks on it for his 50th birthday. Like, imagine releasing an album that you've recorded and produced yourself in your own studio with 50 tracks. It was absolutely unreal, and all killer songs as well, like really, really good songs. So, like the last two albums, the boys decided to do it in Richie's studio, and it's old school / new school in his studio. He opted against having the big Neve desk, but he has all the Neve plugins, and he has, the control room upstairs, and down in his basement, he has like the live room, and he has everything 24/7 set up to record. That's why he's able to record. He has everything, all the microphones and everything's on and plugged in and ready to go. And he works off Pro Tools, and like literally the boys turn up. This is what I love about this band as well. They write old school, like Led Zeppelin would. They get in a room and they write riffs together and they jam out ideas. And then when they have a structure together, Richie will sit down later on at night with a bottle of wine and record or write the lyrics or whatever. And they totally trust him and leave him up to that. The boys rock out the rhythm section. They leave Richie to do his songwriting, which to me, like, I'm the same. You know this about me. Like, I like to sit down by myself as well, and it's a very spiritual thing. When you're writing, so I love that they're happy with him doing that as well. But it just goes to show like how talented Richie is, that he's able to play the guitar the way he does. He's able to sing the way he does. I mean, often he's been compared to Chris Cornell, but he was singing before Chris Cornell, so I don't know why people are comparing him. It should be the other way around. But anybody that doesn't know, Richie was in Poison for quite a while, back in the 80s, glam rock. But he left them anyway, in a blaze of glory. But I won't get into that. I'm Team Richie all the way, like no matter what he does. So there's that, and then he joined Mr Bg, And he, like Mr. Big, when Richie was playing, just got so, I don't know, soulful. There's just something about the way he writes that is just, it's bluesy, it's soulful, and it's rocking. And like you said about his vocals, man, he can tear out. Like his range is absolutely sick. Like he can rip into some really high registers, man. It's absolutely killer. But like we said, Mike Portney, Dream Theater, but then Sons of Apollo as well, that he was in with Billy Sheehan, and a chap called Ron that plays guitar, who a mate of mine knows him and hung around with him, and it's just killer. Bumblefoot is his nickname. My mate Damien was at his guitar clinic or something. He comes to Donegal quite often, like, So there's 7 degrees of separation here going on. But Billy Sheehan has played, as you said, Mr. Big, but he's played with Steve Vai, which is, yourself, virtuoso guitarist shit, and David Lee Roth from Van Halen. So the pedigree behind this band, plus doing it in-house, it's unbelievable. I don't know, like they just have this particular organic sound together that doesn't have to be over elaborated, like you said, like the Dream Theater stuff, but it's just good old school rock and roll, and that's what I like.
I can't imagine having someone like someone like David Lee Roth like on your contacts. So hey man, what's going on? Like, it's fucked. But a famous quote I remember hearing from Prince, I think fits very well into the Winery Dogs. There was an interview where someone was asking Prince when he was alive, asking, are you worried about plagiarism? And he said, plagiarism is for the untalented. Because if someone can copy your stuff, you weren't that unique in the first place.
Yeah.
So, savage as always, Prince. But I think it rings true because, I can't imagine anyone trying to replicate this style and doing it as well as they did. So plagiarism free, I would imagine these guys are as well. I think it was a quote that fit well. But now, going through these tracks, another thing I noticed is how quick the songs go. Because they're not overly long. Besides the last track, 7 minutes. Stars is 6 minutes. Lorelli, 5 minutes. But even though it's not even that long, I'll catch myself like playing it on my headphones, walking around, whatever. And then when I check my phone, it was on the second last track. I'm like, what the hell? Like I don't know. Some albums just have that fast feel to it, that quick.
Yeah.
Even though there's 10 songs, and they're not short songs, but it's just like, I don't know why. Every time I listen to it, I'm surprised by how long I have left. I was like, what the so I guess that's a good thing, because that means it's seamless. It's you listen to some albums and you're like, how long's left? And then you check, it's like 6 songs, like fuck. But this is one of those experiences. It flies by, which I think is a credit to them as well. And obviously when you're working with 3 professionals like they are, you've got your quality production, your quality instrumentation, you've got your everything in spades. So I imagine for these boys, it just must be like clockwork at this point, just to not much effort, because they're all professionals, so they know what they're doing, So it would be interesting to see the process behind it. But no, I don't. Yeah, it's just like it's a solid rock and roll rock album, and especially to be released in this day and age, it's a very impressive effort, and I think it's a sign of, because how many times have you heard that argument? It's like, oh, real music's dead, real music's this and that, and it's like, I get it. There is a lot of shit out there, and because of social media, all the shit artists get a platform, which back in the day that would have never happened. So I get why, but if you just research a bit, and to be fair, like I said, I didn't know this band before you told me, so I still got a lot of searching to do myself. But if you just look into things and just look into different albums, you'll find stuff like this. You'll be surprised by what you can find coming out in this day and age. And maybe and obviously I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I know like one thing I think a lot of people underestimate is nostalgia. It's like, oh, these boys can't compare to Black Sabbath. It's like, how much decades have you had to consume Black Sabbath? Like, and you're basing your comparison over 1 week of a listen compared to 30 years of a Black Sabbath. It's just like, you have nostalgia in your head. Of course, that's always going to win. But yeah, no, for an album to be out there, in this day and age, to me, it's just incredible.
Funny you say that. I had a chat with a young musician yesterday about how he feels like there's no rock and roll stars anymore, like that big, and I was like, nah, like, I can understand how it might not seem that way for the youth now because what's being filtered through to them, but I was like, don't worry, it's still there. We're still fighting the good fight, it's just interesting that you brought that up, but as well as writing this album, Richie has just finished an album and he's just started a new album with Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden. So they have their duo album Smith and Kotzen out now. That Richie's wife, Julia, went on tour. I'm not sure if she played on the record. She probably did. She's an incredible musician as well. She plays in a band called Vixen. So, you follow Richie and Julia and they're just living the dream. They're out rocking out with all these mega stars. They're always jumping on stage with all these, incredible, like top tier musicians, like, because that's what they are. I mean, there's a like a dual guitar thing. It was Nuno Betancourt from I forget the name of his band. He's a very prolific, illustrious guitar player, man. And he had like a birthday bash show or something in LA, and like Steve Vai was there shredding away, Richie Kotzen was shredding away, and they were like bouncing off each other. Like this is like real movie star, like virtuoso guitar playing sort of status. It's like something you'd see in a movie, but to see like Richie's now going back into the studio to work with Adrian Smith after doing this, and then they're touring this album now as well, and they're hitting about. I really hope they come to Ireland. Please come to Ireland, because every time I've saw Richie, I've had to go abroad to see him. The last time I saw Richie was a Ramblin' Man festival in England, and he was the best performer of the whole festival. And like the Darkness played that as well, who were incredible, Airborne, loads of amazing bands, but he just blew them out of the water, I think. But I was lucky enough to meet Richie one time in Berlin on his Salted Earth tour. And he had his two amazing musicians that play with him all the time. I have to give them a shout out. Dylan Wilson on bass and Mike Bennett on drums. They're like his bands that have been with him for quite a while now. But so I was playing the show, just acoustic, small little thing just next door, but he was in. So I went in and I, got to meet Richie anyway, and he was just an absolute gentleman. Like, oh my God, like for the talent and all of that, and then to be humble and really, really nice and everything, like it's just incredible. But I got this signed album off him. This is a Salted Earth album, and that's one of my favorite albums. But just an absolute legend of a man. But then you go on, I know I'm talking a lot about Richie, but like Billy Sheehan has just had the most incredible career. You talk about Black Sabbath. Sure, Billy was playing in the 70s. He's you told me yesterday he was 69. He's had the most incredible career. He started off with a band called Talus in the 70s, and ever since he's just been playing with everybody. I'm just looking at my list here. David Lee Roth, Mr Bg, Explorers Club, Winery Dogs, Sons of Apollo. This new venture, MIWA. I haven't got to listen to them, but it's just, the list is endless. I think he's played with I won't go on, but it's just an incredible career that all these three blokes have had, and for them to come together and put something like this, that's could be even if they weren't three mega stars and they were to release this stuff, it would be popular and people would dig it. That's what most super groups miss. The only reason why they're selling any records is because of who they are from previous work. So I don't know, it's just incredible. But my proudest connection with Richie Kotzen is his dad. His dad sent me a friend request there last year, the year before, because I was ranting on about Richie Kotzen, how fucking genius he is. And I've had a few chats with his dad, and he is a fucking legend as well. I have to give him a shout out because he has a shop where he makes saxophones into brass instruments like saxophones or trumpets into lampshades, or he'll use like pool balls and make like the bass, and he's really talented, really, really cool. And I know Richie Kotzen has a really good relationship with his parents and stuff, so I don't know, it's just real warm and fuzzy. It's all like it's just like, but yeah, I'll digress ever so slightly. I haven't even touched on Richie's solo career. Oh my God, the amount of albums that man has, and the talent and the skill. And he stopped playing with a pick back in the 80s or 90s. He started playing with his hands, and it just became this whole other sound. He used to play like an Ibanez, that real 80s glam style or virtuoso type style. And then he changed it up. He got himself a Fender Telecaster that he has his own signature model with DiMaggio pickups. And then he just started doing this unbelievable style with his fingers. Like, it just goes to show. It's like he got to a stage where guitar was too easy. He's like, I'm going to have to make this difficult for myself now. I'm going to throw away the pick and I'm going to just play with my hands now. Like, top dog. Top dog.
Nah, I think my first experience with a supergroup was Murder Dolls, Joey Jordison and Wednesday 13. When I was a teenager, I was like, oh my God. They only lasted 2 albums, but fucking, at least for me, I love me some good old horror punk. All right, so who are your shout outs for this week?
This week, I would like to shout out, well, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody at Disturbance for the absolutely killer night we had celebrating their 6th year anniversary of running shows. We played with Tramp. I'm going to give all the bands a shout out because they were killer. Expedition, as you know, my boys from here, Dogman Do, Dig, Kessler Effect, Tramp, and of course Ren Marabun Berserkers played that show, and they're just a brilliant place to go, a promotion company to go and get gigs with. So anybody in the local area, hit them up. Disturbance. So I wanted to just give them a shout out, and also my Skull Strings, because I was chatting about them yesterday to a young singer from a band called Marigold, who's an up and coming musician from around here as well. His name's Jonah. And he was asking me about strings, what kind of strings to go for. And I was like, I'm not trying to sell you this, kid, but, there's a really good company called Skull Strings. So I was pushing them on it, but not pushing them on it,
My name is Jonas. You listen to Weezer?
Weezer, yeah.
My name is Jonas. No, that's just kind of it. So who should I do this week? I think may as well shout out our friend who there is only one Elvis, aka Josh Freeman. Oh, you have your thing today, don't you?
No, I was waiting for you to say that.
Nice.
Give a shout out to Josh. I
was
gonna
wearing it.
I thought I'd hold it up to the camera instead. So we've got this lovely t-shirt arrived.
Oh, nice.
With my slogan, "Bitchin' Solo."
Nice. As you can see, Josh does all our merch. That's a new design, the Berserker edition. So There's also the original one that says "Fuck work, listen to the SAGAS Metal Podcast" with a logo at the back, and then obviously that one. So yeah, he's a very incredible artist. Hopefully, to stick with us till the end, and make sure you go check out his music. There's only one Elvis. We'll have him on soon to cover his album, and his new album will be on the Morgrot edition, the latest one coming out. So very excited about that. I got to write a review for it, and I already sent it off to John. So be published soon, hopefully. So yeah, go check him out. I'll put the link at the screen. I'll put the link on the screen below. Put that into your browser. You'll be able to find him easily. Shout out again to There's Only One Elvis. I can't wait to hear his side band. There's only one Freddie Mercury. There's only one Robert Plant. There's only one. No. No, for now, there's only one. So shout out to you, Josh. Josh Freeman. Anyway, off to our regular segment, the legendary.
The Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate. Woo!
Fun times.
Fun times.
I will start. What do I think for my worst track, I have to do. For me, the worst track, in my opinion, would have to be Pharaoh. Only because I found the and this is weird because the song isn't even that long, but I felt like the song didn't justify the 5 minutes and 49 minutes. I found it a bit dragging, just in comparison to the other killer songs on here. And a bit of the singing style wasn't really a fan of, but by itself it's a great track, but compared to the rest, I had to pick something, and for me, that's the one that kind of stood out the more I listened to it. And now for the best track, as far as melody, as far as chorus, as far as groove in general, I'd have to choose none other than Mad World. Although Xanadu is a good time too. But Mad World, I just love the way he sung that chorus. Yeah, it was really good, fun track, and the one I found myself grooving to the most. So those are my two options.
Sweet, man. Yeah, no, I'm pretty close on you with this. What's it? Laura Lee? And it's the same choice as you for least favorite. The two of them are kind of bouncing off each other, but like I try not to bitch out this week, like, because it's Richie. I was like, so no, I'll go for track number 7 just because it's the one I listen to least, right? But I want to talk about my favorite tracks more importantly, and the red wine. Like, just I love it because I can imagine Richie just sitting back writing the tracks of this album and just sitting there having his bottle of wine in his beautiful house out in the California hills. It's just a cool concept. Like, if anybody knows Richie, he has a very cool nature off him, very cool vibe, and he's very laid back, but there's like this really cool fire burning inside him, like this unbelievable talent. But Red Wine and Xanadu, I think, just because the intro to Xanadu is the first thing you hear on the album. And you've got that really cool, the three of them, and even the lead guitar locks in with the bass. That's the cool thing about a 3-piece band. When the bass and the drums, or the guitar and the bass lock in, there's no other rhythm guitar in between. It just gives this lovely, it sounds more minimalistic, but it gives it more a dynamic, expansive sound. Like, so Xanadu, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go with Xanadu as well. I mean, with the Red Wine, Breakthrough, The Vengeance as well. Like, Jesus. I'll just keep it short and sweet. I'll just say Xanadu. I'll say Red Wine. Said it.
Like, I found myself, like, throughout the day, like, just doing random shit, like walking Zeus or doing random stuff, and I'll just be like singing to myself in my head, "Mad, mad world."
Yeah.
It's like, damn,
so catchy.
Like my head.
Yeah, To be honest, I've had that in my head this whole podcast. I've just got the mad, 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 mad world.
Yeah.
It's good, like.
Yeah. Nah, it was nice. You got to finally fanboy about Richie, so that was good.
I reeled it in big time, bro. Like I really reeled it in because I knew you'd be like, "Fuck's sake, man, get it together."
just don't even show up. Just
Yeah,
let you
I
talk for
mean,
hours.
you can't see it, but like I have a big Richie Kotzen on the wall up behind the screen here. Started
Doesn't
Earth Tour
surprise me.
27. Oh man, yeah, he's up there with the Beatles and Kurt Cobain. You know.
Well, I mean, I can't deny that. You know, he's a talented musician.
Yeah.
You know, I too have had an album that this album just came out, but I too have a band that I've been waiting to talk. Well, not waiting, but I was thinking to myself, you know, every week I'm like, is it too early? Should I do this? You know, I'm always second guessing when I should talk about this artist. And I feel lately I'm like, fuck, you know, I'm starting to, you know, this would be episode 57. So I'm thinking, you know, why not, you know, better now than never, I guess. So next week I want to talk about a band that, you know, even though they had a very short discography, a very short career, spanning only 2 albums, but it is amazing. You go online and you read which album is superior, because online people say the first one is perfect, the second one is perfect, and it's split right down the middle. And I will be talking about their second and last album. And to me, this album is the definition of perfect. It's going to be hard as fuck to find a bad track on this one. This band revolutionized the way that we see emo music to this day. They pushed that sound 30 years ahead of its time. And only in only in 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s did that genre finally kick off. And it's because of the groundwork that these boys did 30 years ago. And that is none other than Joy Division.
Joy Division. Wow.
And their second album, Closer, which is ironic because that was their last album. It's a Closer.
Yeah, sick.
Did they plan that? I don't know. But they have two albums. I forgot the name of the first one. It's not a bad album. It's just not my cup of tea. And their second album, I'm on the 50% of the people that think that's the perfect album. And it is. Wait, have you ever heard of them?
That's why I was excited when you said it, because a few buddies of mine are always talking about them, and I never really gave them a chance. I know some of their, you know, classic songs. Yeah. But I never really sat down and listened to albums, so this is interesting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they revolutionized emo music before that was even a thing. So
yeah,
it is amazing. I catch myself listening to it all the time. The grooves on it, the entire album almost feels like a trance. Like I can't describe the first track. Is like the way the first track, the melody, the rhythm, and it's just, I listen to it all the time. It is an amazing album, and it came out in the 80s, I think. So for emo music, like, I think it was them and like only a few bands were really showing signs of that style back then. I think it was these boys and Sisters of Mercy. I think those were the only 2 bands that were really pushing that emo style music back in the day. But either way, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. I actually have it on my offline downloaded albums list. So I've got it whenever I want. It's just, even without internet, I can just pop it on. So yeah, I can't wait to talk about Joy Division's 1980-something album, Closer. So
Sweet.
That will be out for next week. And obviously, as we always say here on SAGAS, same time, same place.
Same place.
Or something.
Or something.